So let's go to a year in review of the show. We'll hit this really quick since we're running out of time just a little bit. We did a lot this year.
Right.
I think the thing that I will always be most proud of for the show, unless we do something on a similar scale, is definitely the Strike Fest in May, where we stayed up for 48 hours, did a live stream, and raised $75,000 for the strike fund for our sisters and brothers on strike in Brookwood, Alabama, against Warrior Met Coal. Raised a lot of money. We got that issue in the Rolling Stone, of all places. We did a concert with Lee Baines. We heard stand-up from
Drew Morgan.
Yeah, Drew Morgan and DJ Lewis.
Yeah.
And got to talk to so many cool people. So that was definitely a lot of fun. We did we guest hosted a couple of Working People podcast episodes about the strike, which you should go back and listen to because a lot of it is still relevant as the strike is still going. We talked to people on the ground. We talked to people, miners on strike. We talked to their families, their children, and I talked to Kim Kelly for Working People about covering the strike. Everybody knows that Kim Kelly has been basically one of the only journalists talking about this strike on a consistent basis, and so I talked to her about what that was like for Working People. So lots of good things there, and Working People is a great podcast that you should listen to anyway.
Absolutely.
I had an article in Labor Notes and Jacobin that was dual published talking about how conservatives love coal until it comes to actually supporting the workers in the coal industry. Mm-hmm. Then they don't love it so much. I was in These Times talking about how right-wingers will scapegoat immigrants, and I had another article. I think I had two in These Times. Oh, yeah, I had a dispatch from the picket line, one of the times when the mine workers actually blocked scabs from crossing the picket line, which was very cool, very cool. David Story pretty recently had an article in The Nation talking about how the defense industry is not actually good for working people, even though it pays many of our paychecks, even myself and David included, although the work that we do, while it's in broadly the defense industry, I think it's about the stuff that we do could be done outside of that area. And talking about the need to transition, there's so much talent in Huntsville is wasted on making bombs that'll either never be used or that are going to go murder poor brown people. Like, there's so much. And so he had an article talking about that, how much better it would be to use that talent, that time, and those resources on actually improving our lives and improving this country and even improving other countries.
Yeah, and the name of that article is I'm a Defense Industry Worker. It's time to cut the Pentagon budget.
Yes.
Definitely recommend folks check that out. For those of you who maybe are just now tuning in, David Story, of course, co-founded this show with Jacob. He sort of stepped back this summer, and that's when I came in to, try poorly to fill his shoes.
You do a great
so
job.
David has, I know, been focusing on his union. He has his hands full as a local president out there in Decatur with the Machinists Union. But, so David has done some great work and still continues to do great work for the show behind the scenes on top of everything else he's doing. So, shout out to David and appreciate everything he did to get this show going. And, I've been glad to be part of this transition in 2021.
I spoke to the Birmingham DSA about strikes, and we're available to talk to your organization or your whatever if you would like to talk about union stuff. I talked about strikes and how how they actually happen, why they're important, and why they're not the first weapon that workers use, and why you don't just throw up a post on Facebook and say, I'm calling general strike. It's like, oh, man, I just realized, I just thought about that connection. What was it? Was it Michael Scott saying, like, I declare bankruptcy or something? Like, that's not how that works. That's not how striking works. That's not how striking works. We talked to some university students in the Northeast about unions. Adam was on a Connecting Humanity Education panel, and he spoke at a virtual voting rights march. Me and David were on the Trillbillies podcast. I think we've been on Left Reckoning a few times. All things to check out. All places you should be following anyway. And of course, on our own pages, YouTube pages, and our podcasts, we had some cool stuff. We have, of course, done some in-depth coverage of the UMWA strike, including the violence on the picket lines, which is something that is really amazing. There have been actually people on that picket line that have been shot at, and some of these local news outlets have the gall to run union violence stories after having almost been run over by a freaking scab. I mean, holy crap. We talked about that. We did in-depth coverage of the RWDSU campaign at Amazon in Bessemer, including interviews with workers, organizers. We were in the Union Hall, did a live show from the Union Hall in February.
Yeah, you and David were out there in the freezing cold rain.
Yes,
the day of that big rally.
Oh, man, that was
and
terrible.
It was amazing.
David thought he was going to lose his feet.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think any of us were really quite prepared for that or dressed for it,
terrible.
But it was pretty cool to see that many people come out, even despite, the awful elements.
We did a whole series on the IWW, talking about what the IWW is doing today, the Industrial Workers of the World. We talked to people who are organizing with the IWW from all across the country, and we talked to some people in the that are in elected positions in the IWW internationally. We talked to a few academics, including Dr. Chuck Keeney, about the Battle of Blair Mountain, and Dr. Robin D.G. Kelly about the radical history of Alabama, which is, what? Radical history in Alabama? What do you mean? History of Alabama.
That was a really, really great interview. And
I loved that. That was so cool.
Yeah, definitely a major influence on many of us who either study history or study the labor movement. So the fact that you got a chance to sit down and talk with him, and the fact that he was willing to come on a little show called the Valley Labor Report in North Alabama speaks very highly of him. Yes. And highly recommend you check that out if you missed it back in the spring.
Yeah, check out that interview. Read his book, Hammer and Hoe. The history of Alabama, really interesting.
It's a lot more nuanced than you may be led to believe.
We did some big breakdowns on the PRO Act with some help from labor lawyer Brandon Magner, and we talked about organizing in industries ranging from manufacturing to academia to farms, and covered some less traditional organizing like at nonprofits, media outlets, and among union employees. What? Unions have employees? Yes, unions have employees. And yes, oftentimes unions abuse their employees, which is insane to me, but it happens, and so the employees of unions have to form unions, and we covered some of that. We talked about, we did a lot of educational segments talking about, especially with help from Connor Lewis and David Story, about how to form a union, how contracts are negotiated, how trade union apprenticeships work, along with some responses to anti-union arguments. We talked to journalists, including Maximilian Alvarez, Kim Kelly, and others from outlets including In These Times, Jacobin Magazine, The Appeal, and Labor Notes, about the things that they were covering. We did a few discussions on union reform, including interviews with activists from Teamsters for a Democratic Union and the Unite All Workers for Democracy. And we did some local coverage as well, including covering issues that either were totally not being talked about or were being talked about in a really stupid way in the media, like interviews with local activists and covering issues ranging from criminal justice to public education. So lots of stuff. We did a lot of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all three of us can be proud of what 2021 has brought with this show. When you put it all out there, I mean, it's pretty impressive, honestly. This is just a ragtag operation, mostly, your brainchild and David's. And, I'm very impressed with what we've been able to accomplish thus far. And I really hope that, this content that's out there is helpful to people. It's hopefully interesting to people, entertaining. But I really, I'm proud that we've been able to elevate some labor discussion into the media landscape here in North Alabama. Really appreciate all the folks who are tuning in, those loyal listeners, subscribers, however you may be supporting the show, financially or otherwise. It means a lot. And, I think, for me, the reason I'm interested in coming on this show and helping out is because there is such a deficit in our media landscape in talking about working class people, talking with working class people, and the issues we face and the organizing that we do and we have to do to overcome those issues. And so I think it's really cool that the Valley Labor Report in our own little small way can make a difference in that way.
Yeah. And so, that's a lot of stuff. If you are, I know that there are a lot of radio programs, podcasts that are taking a break over the holidays through to the new year. And so if you're looking for some content, something to listen to while you listen to or while you do the dishes, or
absolutely.
We do have been on the radio for a year and a half, so we've got a lot of stuff that you can be listening to while you're waiting for your regularly scheduled podcast selection to get started up in earnest again.
And if you got some driving time, some travel coming up, that's a great time. That for me personally, that's I'm a father. It's hard sometimes to find the time to just sit down quietly and listen to radio shows and interesting podcasts, but travel time is a great one. A lot of folks going to be on the road. Maybe you're doing some New Year's cleaning. Just pop it in. We're there. Wherever you find your podcast, we're there. And, if there's anything there we just mentioned that piques your interest, check it out. And if there's anything that you're interested in seeing in 2022, stories that you want us to discuss, maybe some folks that you'd like for us to reach out to and interview, definitely reach out to us. Let us know what you want to see with the show, and we'll do our best to make it happen.
Yeah, and so, definitely you can leave us a voicemail. Like I said, anytime you want to call the show, you can leave us a voicemail at 844-899-TVLR, 844-899-8857. You can leave us a voicemail anytime, day or night, if you've got ideas about what we should be doing on the show, if you have questions you want us to answer, if you want us to, if you want to tell us a story from your life that you think would be interesting for the audience that you'd like us to play on the air, that's a big part of the show is telling worker stories and having them actually on the radio as well with us to tell those stories themselves. So.
And on that note, I got to say, it's been cool to have some callers over the course of this year. Very old school AM radio almost in that way. But we've got a few seasoned unionists in the area who definitely have a lot of years on us and a lot of experience on us, and they like to call in and just shoot the bull, tell us what's on their mind, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I definitely do not hesitate to call while we're on the air either. We love getting live calls, and we love talking to folks.
Now, whether or not I can put you through on the air correctly without technical glitches is another question. But yeah, we love the participation.
Definitely. And so, for the last 4 or 5 minutes here, we're going to talk about some of maybe what we've got in mind for the rest of or for 2022. I've got some tentative plans, and then we're going to go off the radio here on WZZA, and we're going to keep recording, though, and you'll be able to hear the rest of the show on Saturday when we would normally go live in Huntsville, because we're on the radio in Huntsville for an hour and a half. We're only on the radio on WZZA for an hour. So there's like 30 minutes of stuff that, you're not going to be able to get unless you follow us online. So do that. Follow us online, and you'll be able to listen to the full show every week as a podcast or on YouTube, things like that. But yeah, so over the next year, we are going to, of course, continue covering the miners' strike and keeping in touch with the connections that we've made down there and following it to its hopefully a good resolution soon in 2022, because I know they've been on strike for 9 months now. That is tough for anybody, and we're definitely rooting for them. I know that everybody listening is as well. And so we're going to be keeping up with them and letting y'all know what's going on, and even how you can help. I know that there are a lot of people in the audience that are union members, and so consider having your local donate to their strike fund is one way that you can help, or go down there yourself, bring them a pizza, something like that. Also, like I mentioned, we're going to be really staying hot on the trail of the Amazon campaign. There's going to be a new election in the spring, and I've got the cell phone number of the lead organizer for the campaign. We're going to be talking with them, talking about ways that we can get their message out, and talking about ways that we can help as union members ourselves. And I am really looking forward to the Labor Notes conference. What I want to do is try to see if we can't get some other union podcasts or radio shows to do like a Radio Row kind of thing, like at a lot of these,
like the Super Bowl.
Yeah, like at the Super Bowl, or like at the RNC or the DNC.
Right.
There's always like this line of like radio shows, AM talk radio hosts that come and do their shows live from DC or wherever, and I think that would be really cool to have just a bunch of like union folks doing the same thing at a union convention. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I second that motion.
Gonna see what we can do there, but definitely I would be surprised if we don't go, just because that's so that's so in our lane for sure.
Absolutely, and I've always wanted to go, and something's popped up like every time that I came close. So definitely looking forward to it.
Have you got anything specifically that you're that I haven't mentioned that you're wanting to do in the new year, Adam?
No, I'm just thankful to make it another year. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas, and a good holiday season thus far, and hopefully it continues. Wishing everybody a happy New Year. Hopefully 2022 is going to be much, much better than 2021 for all of us. I think it's going to be a good year for labor. It's going to be an interesting year politically, and just sending my love and solidarity to all of those who could not be at home to celebrate the holidays because they were working or incarcerated or whatever the circumstances may be, and just wishing everyone the best.
Yep. That'll be it for us then. Have a happy new year, everybody, and form a union.
Absolutely.
This has been the Valley Labor Report. My name is Jacob Morrison. My co-host is Adam Keller. You can find us online everywhere. And remember that labor creates all wealth, and all wealth should go to labor. Have a happy new year, everybody. Support for this program also comes from the Iron Workers, Local 477. So if you are looking for contractors with lower than average EMR and TRIR, they tell me that if you need to know what those mean, then you will. Or if you need to supplement a workforce at any level for any amount of time, short or long term, if you need iron workers that come trained and certified at no extra cost, or if you need workers from superintendent down to general laborer, and you're looking to start work on a project, or you're unhappy with your current contractor situation, you need to call my friend Jeb Miles with the Iron Workers Local 477. They only work with the best in the business, vetted contractors, and can do all kinds of jobs, from roofing to steel and bridge erection, from welding to heavy rigging, from structural repairs to machinery alignment, and much more. They supply manpower on 4 of the 5 largest projects in North Alabama, so you know they're legit. If you need good quality, safe, efficient, diligent, and knowledgeable workers on your job, then you need the Iron Workers Local 477. Call Jeb Miles at 256-383-3334 or via email at local477@bellsouth.net, and make sure you tell them that you heard about them on the Valley Labor Report.